Hello there.
This is where the fun begins.
Hey there guys, Unofficial Star Wars here. Hope you're all doing well. And in this video, we're going to be talking about John Boyega and his reveals if he'll be coming back for Disney's Star Wars anywhere in the near future. So without further ado, we're going to hop right on into it. In this video, I'm taking a read here from the Direct's article. I'm going to have their full article linked down in the description down below for you guys to check out as well. John Boyega's issues with the Star Wars franchise are very well documented. The actor has previously voiced his frustrations with Lucasfilm, at one point specifically noting how they gave all the newts to Adam Driver and Daisy Ridley, but not his own character Finn. Of course, that's far from the only thing the actor has said on the record. In an Instagram post, the actor also commented, said, "Lol, no thank you," in response to commenter who suggested another appearance in Star Wars, even further declaring that he's moved on, he's moving on with his acting career and just his life overall. All of his negative comments regarding his time in the franchise even drew the attention of Lucasfilm's president Kathleen Kennedy. According to John Boyega, the two had a really nice, transparent, honest conversation where she verbally showed support. But as nice as that sounds, does this increase the chances that the actor may return to the role of Finn at any point in the near future for Star Wars? Of course, being such a diehard Star Wars fan, I'm going to have my own theories and speculations towards the end of this video, really, and I guess kind of throughout it as well. I really think that Boyega is kind of trying to throw us off with this one, to be honest. I think that he will be returning to Star Wars, and I'm not the only person commenting on this either. Reputable leaker over on Twitter for many Star Wars leaks, news, rumors, and all that type of stuff over on Twitter, Jordan Mason has commented on the same thing, saying that he thinks that John Boyega is really just trying to throw us off with this one. This isn't also the first time that I've actually talked about this on the channel. I recently had a video talking about how they should make Star Wars 10, what they would do with it, why it would make sense, and I posted that video like last week, and within the last couple of months actually here on the channel as well, in the last year, I've also talked off and on about what it would be like and how they would continue that overall story after the events of The Rise of Skywalker. In a recent interview and appearance at Sirius XM's Tell Me Everything with John Fugue Slang, John Boyega commented on the possibility that he'd return to the franchise in the future as his character Finn, and his experience facing racism while also working on the sequel trilogy. John Boyega commented that he feels like episode 6 through 9 was good enough for him. In that quote, he says, "I think Finn is at a good confirmation point where you can just enjoy him in other things, the games, the animation, but I feel like episode 7 to 9 was good for me." When the topic of Moses Ingram also came up and how Ian McGregor came to hear her support, the actor also noted how the incident made him feel more protected, and that when he started, it really wasn't a conversation you would really bring up at that, which is such a horrible thing, honestly, guys. Of course, thinking back to the Obi-Wan KENOBI show and with Reva the third sister and all the racism and racist comments that she received as an actress, Ian McGregor and just about everybody else that worked on the Obi-Wan KENOBI show, the Star Wars community, Star Wars fandom, we all came together to protect her essentially from those non-Star Wars fans, essentially. We don't claim them. So when talking about that whole incident and what went on there, John Boyega says that Moses Ingram being protected makes me feel protected. Do you understand what I'm saying? It makes me feel like, okay, cool, I am not the elephant in the room, because when I started, it wasn't really a conversation you could bring up. You know how they went through it. It was kind of like, let's just be silent. It wasn't a conversation you could bring up. But now to see how blatant it is to see Ian McGregor come and support, for me, it fulfills my time where I didn't get that support. So from there, John Boyega goes on to talk about some more of his experiences of maybe where Oscar Isaac was lifting him up, showing him that representation and love, kind of just being a bro that had his back and that type of stuff, whilst also talking about the whole situation with Moses Ingram and how she received support, making him feel more supported at that as well. So when the question is asked, is John Boyega truly done with Star Wars? It's hard to deny that the actor seems well and truly over the franchise. While a Finn spin-off project has been rumored in the past, given these vibrant and continued comments from the actor himself, the odds of John Boyega returning don't really look great whatsoever. However, I also reiterate my whole kind of theory and speculation as a Star Wars fan that he's just kind of trying to throw us off the trail and off the tail right here with saying these comments, saying that he wouldn't want to come back and that type of stuff. But one thing it is to point out is how the actor seems to feel that the character had a satisfying conclusion, or at least as satisfying as it could have been, be given the various issues he's voiced. But there's undoubtedly plenty more to explore with his character, something that the little Lego Star Wars specials on Disney Plus have kind of explored a little bit. He's received like Jedi training and that type of stuff, and Force powers and abilities in those little Lego Star Wars Disney Plus projects and spin-offs like the holiday specials and that type of stuff, which is very cool. The Rise of Skywalker made it clear that Finn is almost certainly Force sensitive, which feels like some something that needs to be explored after the massive fake out that The Force Awakens pulled off. With the recent Disney Plus project bringing back plenty of old faces and working on creating a more cohesive universe, it seems to have given that the sequel characters will be needed at some point. Lucasfilm is just going to need to have a convincing argument to get John Boyega back into the picture, whilst also actually having a really good story to also get him back, because let's not forget, John Boyega is just like you and I. He's probably one of the biggest Star Wars nerds and fans out there that's actually had the opportunity to be in Star Wars and play such a big and significant role. And while I'll touch on this in this video a little bit, it's something I'd like to go more in depth with and talking about in a separate future video here on the channel, so hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. However, it kind of goes as if right now we're getting a bunch of different content away from the sequels. We're having Andor, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and the whole Mandoverse. The Mandoverse is probably the closest that we're getting to the sequels or anything like that. Let's also not forget Tales of the Jedi and the Bad Batch, the Acolyte, and the Lando show. This is all stuff that's totally away from the sequels. They're essentially just giving it a breather and kind of, yeah, essentially a breather, as I meant. Kind of letting the fire and the smoke settle, essentially, and letting the dust settle is the wording, I guess, so to speak, after they kind of come back to it in order to fix it more, make it better. And this is something that the Mandalorian universe is kind of already doing, something that we do already know from the writers Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni, something that they plan on doing with this whole Mandalorian universe and taking place after the events of Return of the Jedi and leading us up to the events of The Force Awakens with a 30-year gap. There's so much to cover and so much more to explain to help us get to that point in Star Wars of where The Force Awakens is taking place. I don't really think there's going to be a lot of major time gaps either with the Mandalorian universe. I think that Dave and John really plan to cover just about as much as they can, and in a sense almost like milk it out, but not really milk it out, because it's good, intriguing stories as well at the same time, stuff that makes sense and stuff that people want to see. I think it's after that and after the whole Mandoverse, I think is when they'll come back to the sequels. They'll give it maybe a couple more movies. I think they'll do an episode 10 for sure, and I even think that they'll do an animated series much closer and resemblance to Star Wars The Clone Wars or Star Wars Rebels, that especially taking place up to the events, for one thing, like Star Wars Resistance did, however more focused on the actual characters of Poe Dameron and Finn and Rey and all of them, but also continuing on that show and that series to take place after the events of The Last Jedi and leading us up to the events of The Rise of Skywalker, giving us more insight about the rebellion, or rather the resistance during this time period, and showing us more of Leia and Rey's training there as well. Anyway guys, I want to know your thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below. Do you guys think that John Boyega is truly done with Star Wars here? Do you think he'll be returning here in the near future? And if so, do you think he's trying to throw us off here essentially by saying all this stuff, saying that he's done with Star Wars and not returning? Let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below. I'd absolutely love to hear what you guys all think. Leave a like on the video if you did enjoy it, as it really does help the channel, and check out Instagram and official Star Wars, more Star Wars related content. Guys, thanks so much for watching today's video. As always, may the Force be with you. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Have a great one. Peace out.